Hello, Ivy here. This week's podcast is called You Never Know What You've Got Until It's Gone. Episode 39. Well. Sussex Squad told the Royalists from the get-go that this abusive behaviour and treatment of Sussexes and lighting fires under their feet and then gaslighting them by telling them the equivalent of it was underfloor heating would backfire on the UK Monarchy. The UK Monarchy has a long history of making life difficult for anyone who has independent thought, and their worst crime is to shine brighter than any of the heirs to the throne. This ingrained entitlement dictates that those in line to the throne are anointed by a higher power, and therefore should be worshipped without question. The populace is led to believe that they are not worthy of such grand people, and that they should recognise this fact and believe all that is spoken by the monarchy family. All monarchy structures are not necessary to any modern society, and all will follow the trail of the majority where they have disappeared from the societal landscape. Those that are left generally recognise the changing environment and have developed skills to read a room, and the few that have not reached that point are destined to obsolescence sooner than they realise, and the UK has to be in the leading pack. Arrogance and entitlement will ensure that the demise of the UK monarchy will be much sooner than they think. The monarchy exists at the moment because of the societal groups at the top of the societal group food chain. Each one of those groups are weak as standalone entities, but together they look after each other. Legislation is developed in such a way that none of those groups are too adversely affected, and despite the monarchy being officially non-political, the monarch meets with government officials on a regular basis, as well as occasions out of view of the general public. As a result, certain laws that the rest of the nation has to adhere to do not apply to royal premises or its occupants. The monarch is exempt from all laws in the UK, but I am referring to the firm as an organisation and employer, for example, and some of the laws that they are exempt from, for example, equality and diversity legislation. Prince Harry has always been popular with people from around the globe, as well as with the people of the UK. No other member of the royal family has that level and scope of popularity apart from the Queen. My thoughts on the popularity of the Queen is due to the fact that we know very little about her, including her views on most things, apart from the fact that she has reigned for 70 decades. The UK media constantly promote this length of service as being an achievement, like surviving an endurance course. Even if it was an endurance course, it is a course that the monarchy constructed and use it to mask their accurate key performance indicators. The monarchy is about performative actions, not measurable or meaningful actions. There is a belief that people will attract blessings and good fortune merely for being associated in some way, even if it is a crest on a letterhead, with the royal family. The British royal family have become used to performative activity and living comfortably with no plans to alter their way of doing things. And if there is ever a query about any aspect of that activity, it is explained away and labelled as the traditional way of doing things as a royal. Prince Harry was always different, and his 10 years in the military reinforced his hands-on, results-driven approach to project management. The royal family were happy to laugh at his way of doing things because they did not feel any pressure to alter their way of doing things. Harry was always used as the workhorse of the royal family, and when any one of the family messed up in some way, they instructed the dung beetles, my name for royal reporters, to come and clean up the aisle, and then publish fairy tales with negative energy for one of the characters, in the name of Prince Harry as the root cause of any negativity, or create a story to distract attention from the faux pas or two by another royal on that day. There have been whipping boys through the ages of the monarchy, individuals who took the blame for the bad behaviour of an heir high in the line of succession. Centuries before whipping boys were literally thrown into crocodile pits, watched by the heir in question. The theory behind that action was that it was meant to make the royal in question contrite, and it would deter them from doing anything similar again, in order to avoid an innocent person being dealt with in that way. Over time, the whipping boy was not put to death, but they certainly took the lashings of the whip on behalf of the higher-placed heir. We all know people who, if placed in that position, would care less about the suffering of another, based on the actions of the true transgressor. Some individuals would consider the whipping boy to be below them, and of less value, so they would lose no sleep over the punishment dished out. Harry was always seen to everyone in the royal family as the whipping boy. It was meeting Meghan that made Harry rethink his approach to his relationship with his family. Meghan has always publicly reminded people that she knows her worth. And if you know your worth, you will recognise when others treat you like a low-value item, not even as a human being. Harry soon realised his own value, and he knew he had found a partner who approached life in a similar way to himself. Performative actions was not for them, and as a result, these two people, who each had a huge following, now planning to become man and wife, instantly set alarm bells ringing in the dusty avenue of British royal life. Instead of welcoming an addition to the family, someone who had a great work ethic and who they realised would do wonderful work and enhance the royal family as a result, was immediately targeted as someone who needed to be separated from Harry. And if that failed, ensure that the marriage would never take place, and if that failed, destroy Meghan's character and spirit, and she would return to her celeb lifestyle, and Harry would be loyal to the royal family and continue his role as the whipping boy. A reminder here that there was a podcast that we did last year which looks at the role of whipping boy and the history behind the name. I'll put a link to the podcast and the reference material around this term at the end of the article, which will be published tomorrow. All of those plans failed, as we all know, and have discussed in previous podcasts and read about since 2016 in the fictional tales that pass for newspapers, written by the dung beetles of the British monarchy. For 4 years, a range of abusive activity was centred on the Sussexes, Meghan taking the brunt of it. There was a level of cruelty used against Meghan that was in breach of multiple articles of human rights legislation. At one point, Meghan sought help from the Royal Human Resources team for her suicidal ideation. The HR team refused to assist and claimed that she was not an employee, so they could not assist her. And as we know, she was not deemed family upon her marriage to Harry, as there was no funding allocated to her upon marriage, unlike all other royal wives upon marriage. Clearly, the intent was to push Meghan so far that she would just leave. And if the worst happened, so be it. It would no doubt have been explained away with some fictional tale. As I've stated before, the UK monarchy has history. In the end, help came from a friend of Princess Diana via the Spencer family. Between 2018 to November 2019, a certain TV presenter made a point of publicly telling Meghan to return to the USA on most of his daily breakfast shows. Never a week went by where he did not mention her name most mornings. Never a day went by when the tabloids did not each write around 25 articles a day, all of them negative, most of them racist in undertone, and some were quite blatant. No media can do those things for years on a daily basis without sanction from above. Let us not forget that Prince William had plans for the Sussexes to be moved to Africa. Apart from his assumption that Africa is a country and not a continent, and also the fact that who does Prince William think he is to decide to move his brother and wife out of the UK to a destination of his choosing, and without the prior agreement of whichever country was the intended place, or the couple themselves? What made him think he could choose any nation to dump the Sussexes on? And it was noticeable that he did not choose places like Canada or Australia. I wonder what the difference was. This was the start of the fragile egos of the heirs to the throne beginning to show. They did not realise it at the time, but they were in the process of weakening the UK monarchy by their behaviour and not by the Sussexes, as the royal version of history books will state. The majority of the history books will state the true picture and never forget the Meghanpedia database of receipts, a global source and permanent record of factual information. The royal family had no idea of the tidal wave of Sussex Squad was now on the move. In November 2019, the Sussexes announced that they were taking a 6-week break from all the media scrutiny. I'm not going to labour on that part because we all know what happened. I will, however, mention the part played by the other heir to the throne, and that was Prince Charles, his actions towards his youngest son and family, whilst they were in Canada. Charles stopped funding immediately and also withdrew security. And then, to top off his actions, he informed, or someone within UK royal circles informed the media of the location in Canada where the family had been spending time at an unknown address. This would not have happened without permission from the royal family. Media descended upon the location of the Sussexes, and all of a sudden, Charles stopped taking Harry's calls. The background to this is that one reporter, who at the time was a media reporter and not a Royal Rota reporter, had been given news from a palace source that the Sussexes were stepping back from senior royal duties. It was reported that this media reporter had given the Sussexes a set number of days to agree to an interview on his toilet paper newspaper, otherwise they would publish something anyway. On the 8th of January 2020, the Sussexes formally announced that they were indeed stepping back. So, why all the shock? 4 years being described as irrelevant? Wanted Harry and Meghan moved to another continent because the spotlight was on them and not the heirs? No need to go into any detail here about the shockwaves when Prince Harry let it be known that he had chosen a person of colour to be his lady. One royal commentator felt bold enough to go on TV and state that there was no way Harry would marry an actress. They are for other things, but not marriage. He described the relationship as merely a fling. Newspapers were printed with headlines such as "Straight Out of Compton," or that exotic DNA was going to water down the royal blue blood, etc. During Meghan's pregnancy and renovations were being carried out at Frogmore Cottage, one dung beetle posted on social media platform that there was evidence of frog spawn near the cottage. The same beetle that publicly declared his frequent conversations with Royal HR about private and confidential matters about the Duchess, and that he knew the members of staff concerned about the bullying allegations. First of all, the confidential details related to the suicide ideation, which he admits all the dung beetles knew about, and yet rather than back off, they increased their abusive behaviour. Secondly, if this particular beetle knew members of staff that well that he knew their innermost thoughts regarding distress, why was he allowed to report and to have dialogue with people he knew well? There is such a thing as conflict of interest. As for Royal Human Resources, they are so in breach of data protection requirements, to name but one. Or will that be claimed to be something else that the British royal family do not have to adhere to? I very much doubt that. There were concerns about the skin colour of Archie before he was born. A media personality was happy to compare the birth of Archie to a non-human primate, using a photo of a white couple with a monkey in human clothing standing between them on the steps of a hospital building. The person was sacked after the uproar from around the globe, but was rehired quietly less than a week later by the BBC, the original employer. Yes, this short paragraph summarises the backdrop to the UK and its response to a person of colour joining the family, and more importantly, knowing her worth, and refusing to play the game to be a pawn in the royal and media game. Harry and Meghan combined are a force to be reckoned with, and never devalued themselves to please others. They were never likely to reach the top of the line of succession, and they were always more interested in undertaking real, impactful work. The fact that others felt uncomfortable with that should never have been an issue. The Sussexes were and would continue to be an asset in the royal crown. Instead, fragile egos took over. Meghan was asked to be 50% of herself. Her freedom of movement was restricted. Her name removed from her child's birth certificate. Slave mentality in broad daylight. Suicide ideation ignored. It was as though all the abuse and coercive control tactics used since 2016 was working. So there was clearly no reason to introduce a professional medical person into the mix who could assist. What were they hoping for? We know. The common denominator of the possible outcomes included Meghan not being present in the British royal family. The tradition of the UK monarchy is to be performative, and to have two shining stars in the family was just one step too far. As unbelievable as it sounds, those fragile egos of those who deem the spotlight should only shine on them, and if a light had to shine on the Sussexes, it needed to be less bright. The Sussex projects had to be agreed beforehand by the family and could not outshine any of the performative efforts by the others, but in particular the two heirs. There was this false belief that the reporting on any of the heirs, if an engagement was undertaken by anything the Sussex were doing, always fared badly in comparison, hence the requirement to coordinate the dates of future engagements. One would assume then that the reporting figures about royal engagements done without anything being done by Sussexes on that day would be high. But that was not the case. The simple truth of the matter was and remains that the Sussexes attract a much wider audience and interest in their activities than the rest of the UK royal family combined, including both the heirs. That is the problem for the British royal family. The Sussexes appealed to more people. UK experts clearly believed if they abused them enough and made them look bad in the media, the couple would eventually conform. So the idea of ceasing funding and removing security and then giving away their location in Canada in November to December 2019 was done with the aim of forcing the Sussexes to return to the safer and expected abuse dished out in the UK, rather than the paparazzi camped outside their front door in Canada. Between the announcement made on the 8th of January to the 31st of March 2020, the content of the media, both printed and televised, was atrocious. Every one of them was saying the same things, using the same phrases, but of course officially there was no contract between the monarchy and the media. We all know that lie has been proven, but at the time this was the vitriol being on display for the world to see. All the reports described the guaranteed doom for the Sussexes and stating that without the royal family they would not be able to sustain themselves. As we all know, that forecast was based on venom, not fact. And once again, they underestimated Harry and definitely Meghan, describing the profession of acting as less than, and therefore the people within it were somehow less than royalty. That particular entitled belief would come back to bite the UK media and the royal family big time. The behaviour in the Commonwealth Service on the 9th of March 2020 is something that the British royal family will never, ever live down. Never. It was crass and unprofessional, undignified behaviour by a nation's figurehead family, royalty at its finest supposedly, and yet it was a scene of theatrical carnage, and done on a global stage. If ever the audience needed to see the depth of the chasm that existed by the performative royals and those who planned and produced outcome-focused projects which were measurable and were sustainable, was clear for all to see. The rumours about the attitude of the British royal family and its partners in the media to bring down this couple was clear and resulted in that last public engagement rubber stamping that they were leaving and that things would never, ever be the same again. The Sussexes were leaving the plantation from behind gilded gates and were about to embark upon becoming financially independent. Let's have a look at the core themes running through the British royal family and the self-created issue of what to do about the Sussex bright light. A few bullet points for you to think over. Fragile egos within the royal family particularly issue with the light shining brighter on the Sussexes compared to the next two in line to be king. Tried to find a negative story or two via private investigators about Meghan. Nothing found. Tried to ensure that the wedding did not take place. Failed. Tried to destroy Meghan's spirit. Nearly succeeded. Tried even harder by refusing medical assistance. Failed. Media clearly primed to criticise everything that the Sussexes did day to day. One going as far as to tell Meghan to go back to her own country of the USA most days of every week. That succeeded, but Harry went too. Not what you expected, did it? The Sussex family stepped back from senior royal duties and left the UK, announced that they were leaving at the beginning of January, formally left at the end of March 2020. Meghan left the UK following the Commonwealth service on the 9th of March 2020 and has never returned. The UK made their feelings known by the condoning the abuse with their silence, or joining in the daily abuse via articles, panels on TV shows, or writing in comment sections. The abuse continues. Time for the international legal communities to step forward now. Sussex Squad has been here since 2016, and we will continue to be here until justice is served. As a global network, we have all time zones and all bases covered, but the legal community in the UK is silent, and the charities that the Sussexes have helped have been quiet for fear of reprisals, and those who have spoken up have been swarmed by followers of the royal family, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge in particular, charity websites swamped with hateful and abusive rhetoric. Not a good look or PR for the UK or its monarchy. The global support for the Sussexes has grown, not diminished, with each attack by supposed royal supporters. Failure once again. Having discovered that the Sussexes are far from irrelevant in their new life, and in fact are extremely successful and financially independent already, the remaining royals, who are described as various saviours of the UK monarchy, have yet to find their niche. To date, every combination of the seven has been tried, and none have proved popularity or support for their events anywhere near those of the Sussexes. So, the answer from UK royals is to try and replicate what the Sussexes do, i.e., do a crash course in empathy and knowledge of your subject of visit, probably learned by numbers or something similar, but the rollout is so bad and so stilted, each visit is an epic failure and builds on all the previous epic failures, and to date there has not been one success. Epic failure on a global stage. Need I say more about the Pandemic Express? March 2021. The Oprah interview with Harry and Meghan. No more needs to be said about the interview itself. It is one of the most viewed televised programmes in history. The first interview given by the Sussexes, despite what the media write about every single day in their newspapers, deliberating, saturating the UK public with wall-to-wall negative coverage of the Sussexes, aiming to increase the ire of the British public. It has worked in some areas of the UK, but support has increased globally for the couple, and the UK media is being seen in an accurate light for what they are and what they do. The most damaging aspect of the Oprah interview is not the actual interview itself, compared to the behaviour of the UK press pack, the Dung Beatles, clearly sent out on a preemptive strike against what they were told were likely topics of things that Harry and Meghan would discuss in the interview. Their behaviour was beyond shameful and disgusting, and was rounded off by the announcement of a bullying allegation against Meghan by the royal family. A file created 2 years before it transpired, just after the wedding, that the royal family tried to stop from taking place. But when asked for evidence by Meghan's legal team of this supposed bullying claim by two members of staff, nothing has been forthcoming in terms of the investigation. Once again, an epic fail for the whole of the world to witness. Few bullet points of my thoughts. From my non-legally training background, creating a file 2 years previous to announcing a bullying investigation suggests premeditation. To date, there appears to be no evidence. Fail. Supposedly, the two staff who are claimed to be the complainants have denied ever making a formal complaint and have no knowledge of any file or any paperwork on the matter. They apparently have requested not to be involved in such an action, according to the tabloids. Another fail. Bullying investigations would normally take days, and at the most, weeks. No bullying investigation could still be running over a year later. None. Another huge epic fail. Meghan is in a very good position with more than enough evidence to bring her own case of defamation purely on that week leading up to the Oprah interview. All the venom and serious allegations made were based on what the royal family thought Meghan and Harry were going to talk about in the interview. Repeat, thought would be discussed, because no one had any idea. The character assassination that week in particular, in an attempt to head off anything that may come out from the interview, is not the way to go about any investigation. The Sussexes have over 5 years of evidence to lead on more than one case. Time for the international legal community to look at treatment of an American citizen on UK soil and now continuing on USA soil. UK royals, add this yet another epic fail to the very long list that is growing. Next bullet point. Rent a black friend was the next initiative to prove that the British royal family is not racist. There has been so much of this. We have had so many instances of find a black friend or find a black crowd to give the impressions that royals love black people. Requesting exclusion from equality and diversity employment laws suggest otherwise. Behaviour in the Commonwealth Service in March 2020 suggest otherwise. People of colour not considered suitable to work in office roles for decades. And still, there are very, very few employed above stairs, and as already been mentioned, none of those staff can take any legal action whilst employed by the royal family because the royals are exempt from equality and diversity employment law. Bullying and harassing the only person of colour to enter the royal family out of the UK as risk to life was increasing. Hate-fuelled content of Kensington Palace social media platform accounts in particular left to stand and are still there. All in all, I would say that the Rent a Black Friend initiative is yet another epic fail. There are a myriad of examples of Prince William having verbal, racist-sounding soundbites when he's trying so hard to appear interested and oh so sincere. Let's take the most recent one. We have so many to choose from. When Prince William talked about the war being alien to Europe, and usually in places such as Africa and Asia. The royal reporter who placed the story along with the Press Association for other media to access and to run with, using the above phrase of what Prince William actually said, found himself 15 hours after submitting the original copy that he thinks he may have misheard what was said, and the story was changed. So, for almost a day, none of the press pack had a problem with what was said, but only when the whole thing blew up into a globally recognised disaster, it was obvious that the British royal family spoke to whoever in the media, and all of a sudden, the story of what was apparently said was changed. It took 15 hours for the original reporter to have a lapse of memory. The storyline was changed, and a video was produced out of thin air that had clearly been edited, portraying Prince William speak mid-sentence, with the racist phrases missing. The quality of the footage was so poor, it looked like it was done by a 5-year-old at their first IT lesson. Woeful. Epic fail. Again. The world knows what was said, and no amount of feather duster cleaning can change that original article. We await the next audition queue for the next event where the rent a black person or crowd is needed. Never forget that Prince William is bored with racism. Epic fail by a future king. Harass the Sussexes and the only black baby born into the royal family out of the country. The Sussexes went to live on another continent, and the UK took their abuse across the pond. Once again, the location of the new address in the USA was given to media via Prince Charles again, or whoever within the family. Epic fail again. The Sussex family were provided with a USA location by the philanthropist and actor and producer Tyler Perry, by providing a house for them and security. Sussex Squad recognised the message sent to the world, that it was a person of colour who works in a profession that the UK disparage on a regular basis, who provided a home and security which the UK royal family refused to do, and increased the risk to the Sussexes by giving details of the location to the media, who harassed and bullied Sussexes every day since 2016 and now took it across continents. Conclusions. British royal family and your propaganda team in the media. For your information, Africa is a continent and a very beautiful and prosperous part of the world. It is not a dumping ground for people of the UK who they do not like. Never forget the destruction of all land occupied by indigenous people was carried out by colonisers. The owners of the plantation behind the Gilded Gates in the UK are in no position to preach to any nation on how they should live. Plantation owners in the UK have no concept of how many are struggling in the UK. Perhaps learn about things on your own home soil first and try to help. The wealth at the top of the UK society, distributed between single societal groups whose money is stored outside of the UK, support each other to ensure that they stay in control, and that the voting process has no provision for the people of the UK to have any say whether or not the system needs updating. Seems like the 15 hours that certain brain cells were in meltdown, it was forgotten that footage and sound had already been disseminated, so the clean-up of the aisle did not work so well. Majority of the brain cells used by people outside of the royal reporting crew were working fine and experienced no meltdown, and in fact, their recollections were crystal clear. A clear pattern of firing dud bullets with the intention to damage reputation or worse, do harm to health, with no formal recognition of an actual process to follow, which is a legal requirement in such matters. No one in the firm is used to being questioned. The sense of entitlement is off the scale. The whole setup is totally against human rights legislation. The UK government is intent on watering down human rights requirements, and in particular privacy laws. It seems losing cases related to this area is influencing the speed of the changes they wish to make. Imagine, in this day and age, equality and diversity laws do not have to be adhered to in the British royal family. Black people are not allowed, as a rule, to work above stairs, only in servile positions. Workers can be abused, and they can do nothing about it whilst employed there, because the law does not apply to their employer. Think, then, of Meghan entering that environment and the attitude or potential attitude of some of the staff above stairs. Think, then, of Meghan being refused access to medical assistance for her suicide ideation because she was deemed not to be an employee. Apparently not a family member either, because unlike everyone else who had married into the royal family, Meghan was not allocated a budget, and Harry was advised that perhaps she should return to acting to help pay for the expenses incurred on future royal duties. Meghan's name removed from the UK birth certificate for Archie. Only her title remains. Slave mentality rearing its head again with the same family. Now, Sussexes have left the UK. There are no more human shields to cover up the less than exemplary royals from their habitual verbal errors, which means no distraction stories, infighting within the royal family, throwing each other under the bus, i.e. the two future kings. Does not bode well for the future of UK monarchy. A quote from Peter Hunt, who used to be a royal correspondent. This quote is from an article he wrote in the Daily Mirror this month. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were subjected to a level of cruelty by the royals, who could have done more to accommodate them. End of quote. In 1,825 plus days of no intervention or support shown to Meghan, yet it took 15 hours, less than 24 hours, to commission the clean-up operation of one quote from another senior member of the royal family, which did not work anyway. Gaslighting will not work with Sussex supporters. We have reams of evidence. There are clear patterns of behaviour which are in no doubt, and would be in no doubt by independent analysis. It will come. It has been over 1,095 days since the bullying investigation was publicly declared as taking place. The behaviour for the week before the Oprah interview was clear public bullying and harassment, combined with coercive control behaviour since Meghan joined the royal family via marriage, which led to suicidal ideation and is absolutely in breach of several areas of the Human Rights Act. Any other institution would be investigated by now. It will happen. Mark my words. The clock is ticking and action will commence. Just you watch. Fragile royal egos concern themselves with the brightness of the spotlight on the Sussexes, and the less than bright glow on the rest of the family. One would think that the British royal family would be concerned with matters of state, and therefore be more than happy that the institution would be identified with any of the beneficial outcomes from all of the Sussex projects. Instead, jealousy reared its head. Such childish and puerile behaviour from senior royals in particular does not bode well for their future. Most people are not going to support any of you based on title alone. More will be required in this modern age moving forward. Well, you managed to force the Sussex family out of the UK. All of the British royal family wanted and expected them to fail. The world now knows that you deliberately put this family at increased risk, with nothing positive expected as an outcome. You hoped that the couple would return home with their tails between their legs, begging for your attention, and you would have your human shields back. This did not happen. You all now well and truly have the spotlight. How's that going for you? As a UK citizen, I find the whole concept of monarchy in any nation an obsolete construct. But to live in a country where I see the monarchy behaving the way it does has moved from embarrassing to comical. Your media partners work hard every day to portray the Sussexes in a negative way and keep running with the lie how they embarrass the family or do not show respect to the family, etc., etc., etc. The reality is that the next two future kings are doing that all by themselves. Operation Clean Up One's Image is not working the way you want or think. Harry and Meghan are irrelevant according to UK media, no doubt on the instruction of the monarchy, yet they are obsessed about anything that they say or do and report on it in their usual negative style, like bots programmed to react only in that way. Those same media who claim not to care go without sleep to report on people they describe as irrelevant. Those same media go out of their way to criticise things that just enhance the image of a once great nation now falling to this level. Both, in fact. A monarchy is seen as having to depend on tabloid press for coverage. Coverage that is favourable to them at all times, and daily write nothing more than fairy tales. And it does not in any way give the UK any reputation of greatness. If anything, it highlights how far the UK has fallen. For every public faux pas that senior royals deliver, it only enhances the support for the Sussexes. The behaviour of the British royal family has given the Sussexes a faster trajectory than they would have achieved anyway. So all this plotting to bring down the Sussexes, Meghan in particular, is seen for what it is, and the UK will pay for that in so many ways moving forward. The idea that the UK can sail off to its self-made utopian land is just that, utopia. Self-made, and it is not real. Their ship has no engine or captain, and the vessel is leaking. Larger ships in the sea look and wave and laugh at this country that used to be referred to as great, floating into obscurity. How the mighty have fallen. International law exists for a reason, and things that have been done to the Sussexes have been done to others without a voice, and there has to be some kind of intervention. Just because some people do not have the resources to fight back does not make them easy prey for UK media, without consequence. Treating a USA citizen to a range of abusive actions on UK soil needs to and will be addressed someday. And let us not forget the continued harassment of a USA family on USA soil by individuals and organisations based on another continent. It has to stop, and it will stop. There will be no repeat of the Diana outcome. None. British royal family, you have the stage all to yourselves. The spotlight that you craved is shining brightly on all of you, particularly the Magnificent Seven. As that total reduces, even more will be exposed under the spotlight. The new game of throwing each other under the bus, as opposed to Harry or Meghan, or both, is actively in play now. The spotlight is showing the world what is happening, and can only imagine what was done to the Sussexes away from the spotlight. My thoughts on this matter is this. British royal family, who's sorry now? That's all from me for this week. Signing off now. Bye from Ivy. Bye.